Hello, amazing folks. It is International Women's Day, March 8th, 2023. The theme is embracing equity. And in the newsletter, I actually always do a land acknowledgement of where I am situated and my commitments. And this week, I decided to include, and moving forward, a tally of the long-term drinking water advisories on First Nations communities in Canada. Currently there are 32. Obviously none are good, so the more that number can shrink, the better. International Women's Day, I ask a few questions at the beginning of the newsletter. Are women being paid more? Are women being promoted more? Are women being valued more? It seems in today's turbulent times, there is almost a backwards motion in some cases, that women are being harassed online. It seems like an open forum. I have a brilliant friend, Ashleigh Weeden, who is what you would call a rural futurist. And she wrote an article for Municipal World, and I include a link to that, examining where we're at as far as equity goes and the path forward, some of the things that need to happen to move us forward. Did you know that Miss Vickie from Miss Vickie's Chips was a rural woman entrepreneur? She perfected her recipe on her farm in New Lowell, Ontario. How about the Jolly Jumper? Did you know that Olivia Poole was the first Indigenous woman in Canada to secure a patent for that product? And at the time, way back in 1910, when she first came up with the idea, she was living in rural Manitoba. And it wasn't until decades later that her children convinced her to apply for the patent. 1 in 6 Canadian women-owned businesses operates outside of an urban center. I would love to tell you how many of those rural-based women are women from equity-deserving groups. But Stats Canada doesn't count them yet. Maybe that should happen. There are a couple of graphs that show that rural versus urban when it comes to rural women, Canadian-owned businesses. And also it spreads it out through provinces, rural versus urban. And I think it's quite interesting. This week's podcast episode is from Gitanjali Aggarwal. She works at the Paro Centre for Women's Enterprise. She's a business counselor there. But she has had an incredible journey so far in her young, beautiful life. If you have ever been in her presence, you wouldn't forget it. She has an incredible way about her. And she has an incredible story. She talks about some of the things that Paro offers, some of the unique products and services, including lending circles, which is something I was super curious about. Gitanjali in Sanskrit actually means collection of lyrics. And Gitanjali is a self-professed dream chaser. So you'll hear all about that on this week's podcast. I also highlighted another rural woman entrepreneur, one of the very first ones that I interviewed for season 1. Her name is Shivani Damija, and she is the owner of Shivani's Kitchen, Shivani Spices, and she is doing exceptionally well. Her products are in Sobeys, and she is based in Atlantic Canada, not far from Halifax, Nova Scotia. Coming up, we have 4 rural women counselors. They talk about their first 100 days in office. I'm super excited to bring you my conversation with Isaac Murdoch. Some of my friends call him a legend, and after spending time with this gifted Indigenous storyteller, I would say they are completely right. And that's it for this week. I am super excited to dive into more topics. And if you have any one that you would like me to highlight, or maybe it's you, please get in touch. Take care of yourself and take care of each other. Until next week.